Yo, welcome back to another video. It's your boy Cordy man. I don't know why I said man. This is WWE 2K 23 daily news and rumors for Monday Night Raw. And I'm guessing everything else is from last week up until now from the daily news or what's coming up. I don't know. Well, I don't know how long this video is, so let's get into it. I'm gonna do about 7 to 10 videos today. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I might go get something to drink and then come back, but yeah, this is a streaming YouTube.
And we're kicking off today with The Rock, who made an electrifying return to SmackDown and would take out Austin Theory and share a backstage segment with John Cena. The Great One had plenty to say during his return to WWE, but not everything that was said during his promo was broadcast on the show. At one point, fans were encouraged to chant, "You are," and at Austin Theory, which the Denver fans gladly did,
I noticed that.
But that last word was censored on TV. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select reports that these chants were cut due to the FCC, the independent agency that regulates communications by radio, television, wire, satellite, and cable. Contrary to what some believe, the decision to cut that word was nothing to do with WWE's PG rating, but WWE and Fox's desire to avoid an FCC violation and therefore avoid a fine. As for what's next for The Rock, PW Insider reports that he and WWE are going to sit down and have a long talk, and hopefully they can make something work that'll play out on TV. It was in early 2022 that WWE and Rocky had a handshake deal for a match at WrestleMania 39, which ultimately fell through, in a huge disappointment for fans hoping to see him wrestle again.
Yeah, me too.
What's your take on The Rock
expecting that.
in WWE?
I'm getting back into wanting him at WrestleMania again. Like,
Sound off
I think the hype is
comments
back
to let
for
us
me.
know what you think. It's always a huge deal for WWE to get The Rock in person for any event, but the return on SmackDown also meant a great deal to the Brahma Bull himself. Taking to Twitter to reflect on his return home, the Brahma Bull said that he
Why do you keep saying return home? It was in Denver, not Miami, Florida.
100% surprise to
Maybe he
everyone.
meant his return to WWE. That's his home.
But The Rock said they sounded loud enough to be 100,000 and placed the Denver fans in his top 5 loudest crowd reactions of his career. The Rock added that coming home will always be sacred to him, and went out of his way to thank
I see what y'all did there.
as well as Austin Theory, describing the youngest ever U.S. champion as talented. With that said, the point The Rock hammered home is that he is incredibly grateful to the people and vowed to never take his connection with the fans for granted. Even 25 years after his debut, The Rock garners some of the loudest crowd responses ever, and the crowd at his next appearance will have a tall order in trying to outdo the fans last Friday in Denver. It's not just in WWE that The Rock is making an impression, as the Great One was recently referenced in TKO Group Holdings' other company, UFC. Following a recent fight, UFC fighter Charlie Campbell was being interviewed by Daniel Cormier, a man who knows a thing or two himself about the world of WWE. Campbell would ask Cormier what he thought about his boxing skills, but before DC could give an answer, Campbell interrupted, using The Rock's line of, "It doesn't matter what you think." This got quite the pop from the fans, and Cormier couldn't hide finding the line funny, as The Rock's popularity and influence can't be contained to merely one sports promotion.
Guys, I almost got.
Damn, why you gotta hit me with an ad? That's messed up.
Health allowance, which pays.
Nah, I can skip it.
Over to Raw, as tonight's show will see the Red Brand continue to build towards next month's Fastlane Premium Live event, and has quite the task following on from last week's SmackDown. After The Rock's appearance last Friday, it seems that Raw will have a surprise cameo of its own tonight, as BWE informed their followers, all eyes on the Dragon for Raw cameo. There's no word on which Dragon this will be, as perhaps it'll be NXT's Dragon Lee, who has had issues with Dominic Mysterio and the Judgment Day as of late on the Gold brand. Perhaps it'll be Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, who just proved he can still fire up the crowd in pro wrestling after his recent cameos for AEW. If some sort of deal has been reached with AEW, we can't count out American Dragon Bryan Danielson, though it's unlikely that this is the case, though you can never say for sure. Only time will tell which dragon shows up on Raw, but it appears that something significant is coming to Monday
I
Night
feel like
Raw
it's gonna be
tonight.
Dragon Lee before anybody else.
It was last year that Roman Reigns signed a lucrative contract with WWE.
He'll get a
one that
lot
has resulted
to
in the
come out
Tribal
there
Chief appearing far
to
less on TV and at live events. Now, though, Reigns' return has been
interrupt Dominic
confirmed as the
Mysterio
Fiserv
on
Forum's
Judgment Day.
official website is promoting Reigns for the October 27th edition of SmackDown in Milwaukee. This show will serve as the penultimate SmackDown before WWE Crown Jewel on November 4th and will include Rey Mysterio, LA Knight, The Street Profits, Bobby Lashley, Charlotte Flair, and John Cena. As to what
John
Reigns will
Cena
be
gonna
doing
be
on
doing
the
there?
show, that's unknown at this time, as it's also unclear if he'll be making any appearances for WWE ahead of this episode of the Blue Brand. Reigns' next match is expected to take place at Crown Jewel, though WWE hasn't announced an opponent yet, but fans in Milwaukee will get a rare appearance by the head of the table.
Hopefully it's
Today
AJ
marks 2 full weeks
Styles.
since AEW owner and CEO Tony Khan publicly announced that CM Punk had been fired by the company with cause due to a backstage incident involving Punk and Jack Perry during All In at London's Wembley Stadium 1 week earlier. Despite initial reports that Punk might issue an explosive response to being let go, he has since stayed silent on anything to do with the subject. The silence ended last night, at least somewhat. Punk returned to his occasional gig of doing color commentary for Caged Fury Fighting Championships on Friday, and he and his broadcast partner John Morgan made several clear references to the incident at All In. First, Morgan introduced Punk by saying, "Look who I ran into backstage," and adding that Punk was back on commentary with cause. Later in the broadcast, Punk suggested the commentary team do a post-fight show, to which he was asked by another colleague if he had time on his hands, and Punk responded, "Yeah, I got some time on my hands for the next 2 months." At one point, Morgan also playfully mentioned that he and Punk had some things to discuss, and Punk replied with, "What do you want to talk about?" in an equally playful manner. Nothing is known publicly about whether or not Punk has a non-compete clause with AEW following his firing that would prevent him from working for WWE or any other wrestling company for a certain period of time. That said, Punk's comment about having 2 months on his hands has unsurprisingly already led to rampant fan speculation that after that time, he'll be free to return to wrestling. Furthering that speculation is the fact that in just over 2 months, WWE is in Chicago for Survivor Series, although knowing Punk's penchant for messing with the internet, he may well just be trolling fans on purpose.
It'd be
Now,
nice
Kevin
if
Nash
he
has never
returned.
shied away from making his feelings
Be the
clear
biggest
about CM
guy.
Punk, even
Him,
if Big
it'd be
Daddy Cool
Roman
says he has
Reigns,
no
then it'd be
heat with
him.
the self-professed voice of the voiceless. Heat or no heat, Nash has often
You
commented
ready
on
to see him
during
Punk?
his
I mean,
this podcast,
Seth
with
Rollins.
comments rarely being complimentary, and his latest episode of the show proved to be no different. During the show, Nash applauded Tony Khan and AEW for putting so many fans in Wembley Stadium before turning his attention to Punk and the former AEW star's physique. He
Please don't
probably
do
has
a
one of the
CM Punk
7
versus
worst
Seth
bodies to
Rollins.
ever hold the belt, if not the worst body to hold the belt, and I don't give a if you're straight edge or whatever the you are, there are some natural guys out there who actually have some muscle. During the same podcast, Nash spoke on pro wrestlers who complain about autograph hounds. He made a point that they should be grateful that their signature is worth the money it is. Nash is hardly the first person to take issue with Punk's physique, and while some hope to see Punk back in the ring down the line, odds are he won't be workout buddies with Big Daddy Cool anytime soon. AEW Collision news now, as the show is looking to reset and reestablish itself in this post-CM Punk era, and while fans haven't been chanting for Punk, the loudest chants are for someone not with AEW. The most recent episode was quite a mess in the view of some fans, with numerous production botches, including 22 takes by Keith Lee, and the crowd were hardly the most cooperative group of people either. A contributor for PW Torch who attended Collision said that there were plenty of "yeah" chants for LA Knight during the quiet and transitional moments of the live show, chants AEW hardly wants. There was also loud booing over the Righteous, who defeated the Hardys on the show, and many people said that the faction was a Wyatt family look-alike. ROH star Dutch, who's a member of the group, expected this to happen and speculated that fans would compare his stable to the iconic WWE faction weeks ago. The contributor said that there were no chants for Punk, which will come as a relief for Tony Khan, but that a video package featuring the Elite was booed. Collision was a show made in part to placate CM Punk, and the show has had an interesting time ever since his release, and it remains to be seen what can be done after last week's chaotic episode.
I thought the show was going to
Last
be
week,
canceled
Jade
once
Cargill's
Punk
time
left.
with AEW came to an end.
They just
and
focus
the
on the
former
other
TBS
show.
champion is set to join WWE very
That's
soon.
what I've been hearing.
PW Insider reports that Cargill's contract with AEW has already expired and that she no longer has any official capacity with the company after being with AEW for the past 3 years. The report adds that not only is Cargill set to join WWE soon, but she is expected to begin her training this week and will be honing her skills at the Performance Center in Florida. Cargill shared a sign of respect with Chris Statlander at last week's AEW Rampage, another sign of her exit, and it'll be interesting to see how she fares as a WWE superstar.
I think she all good.
For years, Baron Corbin put away
Look how
opponents with his end
Bianca's
of
doing.
days, and no matter if you were
It's
John
gonna be
Cena,
as
AJ
annoying as
Styles, or
her.
Kurt Angle, nobody was kicking out of the devastating move. It was at WrestleMania 38, though, that the move was kicked out of for the first time, with Drew
I hated
McIntyre
that.
being given the honor, but this was something Corbin was vehemently against. Speaking
I would
of
be
Fightful,
against it too.
Corbin said he had zero input on the decision, and that it was something he had fought for a long time, as he wanted just one thing in his career to be truly sacred. Corbin argued that he had done everything WWE had ever asked for him, including making characters work that so many other wrestlers would have struggled to pull off. Although a world title run has eluded him, even with a Money in the Bank run under his belt, his end of days finisher was certainly something he kept in his back pocket as a surefire way to win a match. Calling his end of days the one thing he had, Corbin recalled voicing his displeasure at WrestleMania 38 when he was told what was happening, but his pleas were ignored. Corbin concluded saying that they did it and it's over, and appeared quite defeated, as the one thing that made him stand out among the roster is now a thing of the past.
Thanks to the Google
Right.
IT support certificate.
He's still
now I'm
good.
working full-time at
He's
T-Mobile
still in my
as a
top
sales
5.
desk specialist.
It's Roman Reigns, it's him, Shawn
When you're putting
Michaels.
together a wrestling show for TV, it's
I don't
often
really
the case
get
that
top
segments
4 and
have to have
5.
their time
We'll
reduced
work on that
or
later.
sometimes cut entirely, and that was the case with this week's Collision. During the show, Kevin Kelly was preparing to introduce a Santana segment, only to pause for a long time and switch to introducing a Golden Lovers video package in a bizarre moment from a strange episode. It appears Santana's segment had to be cut from Collision, and on Twitter, the man himself made it clear that he was unhappy, tweeting, "Wow, okay, I got you." In the comments, fans also noted that Kelly was seemingly gearing up for a Santana segment, only to move on, and it's likely his segment got cut due to a timing issue.
I can see that.
This was just one of several productions
I wouldn't watch
from
AEW.
Collision, which have left fans
I just
scratching their
didn't
heads
want to skip
as
forward
how
in
these
the
errors
video
made it
because
into
so
the
short.
show of the second biggest wrestling
So I have no
promotion
idea
in the
what's going
US.
on.
Santana only recently returned from injury and had to be talked into teaming with former friend Ortiz at All In, and it's clear that his comeback has hardly been a smooth one so far.
Seemed like
It was
it
during
wouldn't.
last week's NXT that
I'm getting
Becky
tired
Lynch
of seeing
dethroned
these
Tiffany
Puerto
Stratton
Rican
to capture the NXT Women's
flags.
Championship, with many believing that
I
their
like
feud
Puerto
is
Rico.
far
I just
from
don't
over.
like
Some
how
have
if I
said that
keep
this title change will start a
using
slow
the
call-up
flags
for
to,
Stratton,
I don't
who
know,
could appear on Raw more
garner
as
up
she
some
continues a feud with Lynch, and a recent
sympathy.
live event gave credence to this theory. At the event in Kennewick, Washington, Stratton challenged Lynch for the NXT Women's title in a rematch from last week, in what will have been a valuable experience for the former champ. It should be noted that this wasn't Stratton's first WWE live event, as she also faced Kiana James at a SmackDown live event in July and got the win on that night. Stratton wasn't so fortunate during her rematch with Lynch, but the
Figured
fact
she
that
wouldn't be.
WWE is using Stratton on main roster live events could be a sign of big things to come in her future. Stratton said in May that she didn't want to be called up in the WWE draft, believing she wasn't ready at the time, but said earlier this month that she feels ready and wants a move as soon as possible, and that certainly appears to be WWE's plans for the NXT star.
They could have gave the
During a
championship to
recent
somebody else.
WWE live event, Dominic Mysterio tried to interfere in Finn Balor and Damian Priest's match with the LWO's Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro. Unfortunately for Dirty Dom, Rey Mysterio was having none of this, as he came out and chased his son into the ring before delivering quite the spanking of his troublesome son. Naturally, fans loved what they saw, and while the Judgment Day would retain the undisputed WWE Tag Team titles, Dominic was likely feeling mighty sore during the backstage celebrations. 10 years ago, dedicated U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration agents conducted a comprehensive federal investigation into the Biogenesis Clinic to investigate the prevalence of steroid use in baseball. Alex Rodriguez, Nelson Cruz, and Ryan Braun were among the 21 players ultimately suspended. Tony Bosch and 7 others were subsequently convicted.
A steroid in a
ESPN managed to
baseball.
acquire an
What?
extensive cache of 1,400 unredacted federal investigative documents revealing the identities of additional athletes associated with Biogenesis. Among them was AEW's Paul White. In a revealing interview, Tony Bosch mentioned that he had treated White during the years 2009 to 2010. Bosch disclosed that his partner Jorge Oogie Velasquez. As Moxley explained in his memoir, the decision to leave was not easy, as WWE were paying him very well, and he even had a heart-to-heart with Vince McMahon before departing. Speaking to Believe in Pro Wrestling podcast,
Yeah, it's all just AEW news. I don't care. I don't think y'all would either. Thank y'all for watching. A lot of streams coming today. So stay tuned, man. We coming in